One became two, two became three, three gave it to four. This is the fourth episode of the Next Door Engineers to Heroes. Every episode we try to bring in engineers or artists who have a unique story to tell, who have some learnings to share, or who has a knack to do. This time we have fellows from financial capital of India, the city that never sleeps, Mumbai. Welcome Shalve and Narendra for the fourth episode of the Next Door Engineers to Heroes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, welcome once again. Shalve and Narendra, this session is going to be a little different from the previous three sessions or the episode that we had. I am straight away going to jump into the questions without wasting much time with the introduction. The introduction of you both are going to happen on the fly. So, the freelancing world is full of uncertainties. It has got a lot of biases. Freelancers are sometimes looked down. Narendra, what do you think? Why this? Why this kind of inferiority treatment to freelancers? What is your take on this?
See, actually, it all depends on the market where are we standing. So basically, our market is more depending on the Western market. So like we look towards the people that works on the West, like we take inspiration from the United States and the Europe, that how they are treating. But what happens when you talk about the freelancer? If you see that there are a lot of freelancers working there successfully, but here we have our own challenges. So what actually happens? It depends on the market, what people are thinking, what companies are understand about that. And in our Indian market, actually there is a lot of awareness need to be bring on to the people. There are a lot of companies are working with the freelancers, and I have worked with them. But still, there are a lot of potential to make a lot of companies aware that working with the freelancer is a good thing, and they can trust on them exactly like you can trust on any company, because this perception is different. People think that a freelancer is a kind of one individual person, but this is not the case. Freelancing is also a kind of business. It's as much as credible like any company. That's the thing that we need to actually make people understand. Companies are getting understanding this thing very well. So things are improving, but there are a lot of scope to go on.
Oh, very nice. Freelancers are not less than a company.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yes.
So because companies thinks, a lot of companies actually give the feedback that, see, you are just a freelancer and we want someone who is credible, or we want, will you be able to take this? And so that is the question that comes because they are not aware about the capability. The freelancer that you are working with has worked on the projects on the big companies already there. So maybe he may have worked on the big companies like a Sony, like Oppo, and kind of big companies, and that you don't not even aware about that. So these are the same workforce that used to work on those big projects. So obviously there is no question of quality in compromising on the quality. So that need to be conveyed very well mannered, so that everyone can understand this basic difference. Especially this is the same workforce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shalve, over to you. There's something about employers describing the job. Because of they don't describe it well, or because you don't understand it correctly. There's a lot of miscommunication. The expectations set in the beginning are not being achieved because of this miscommunications or understanding. So why does this happen? And who is the responsibility? Right, or something?
Yeah, so good point. The thing is, in the world of freelancing, the main thing that a freelancer has to define is his or her deliverables. Like as an engineer, my deliverables could be certain set of drawings, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that is what I have to discuss with the client when I take up the job. client cannot just say that design this, okay, but design this, but what are the deliverables? So this is where a majority of people get wrong. I mean, I have experience working with people in the US and other countries as well as India. So the major drawback that some of the Indian or South Asian countries have is the employers or the people who post job do not really define the deliverables. So deliverable defining is important, because if you do not define a deliverable, how do you even know whether a job is complete or not?
On one side, employers don't define the deliverables properly.
Yeah.
Why freelancers don't go up to them and say, hey, you have not delivered, you have not set your expectations right, you put your requirement properly, then I'm going to work. No, certain times what happens, freelancers jump into the job, they say, oh, give it to me, I will do it, without knowing the intricacies of the job. Or
Exactly. So that happens if you are a newbie, if you are new into freelancing, you really don't know how the industry works. Right? So you are like, okay, there is a design job, you see the job description and you feel that you can do it, but you really don't know what are the deliverables, and then you just jump into it and you're stuck. It's like that.
Yeah, I understand that. In the beginning, everybody wants to take as many jobs as possible. They don't know how much they can eat or how much they can digest. So they
Exactly.
and then what they can digest is only half of or maybe a portion of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very well said. Narendra, again, the criticism part. I'm coming to you for sticking on to the timelines and unprofessional behavior that is often criticism, I would say, to freelancers. Is that true? And if that is a criticism, how do you handle this? If an employer comes up to you and says, no to freelancer, I would rather go to an agency because the freelancers are not professional. You are an individual again, as you said before. So, what is your counter to this?
Yeah, actually, this kind of situation I have seen many times. So the answer is yes and no also. The reason is that any project when it starts with some kind of scope. But what happens even at the time of development, like when you're working on a project, each project also gets evolved. It's a kind of simple evolution process when your project also gets scaled up into size, and sometimes you need to change the scope also. You need to add something. And what happens in many cases, clients put new requests without even thinking that it will affect the timelines and affect the many things. So what happens? These kind of things also adds up. And as definitely my friend said, so because most of the freelancers actually make a big crucial mistake there, that they do not define the clear guidelines that okay, what we are going to deliver, what we are going to scope it out, and that's why these kind of problems come. So if you are able to lay out all these things, like okay, so this is our delivery, that's how we are going to actually forward with this project. So what happens? You can also put these new things where a client actually put more. Like let's say I give you one example. I'm working on one project that had an initial scope of working on 20 to 30 screens for an application. But eventually, what happened then? When it started developing, so I felt okay. Then there is a lot of scope, and if we want to make it better, we need to add more. And then that same thing came from the client also. So client put some request, then I added some request more. So what happened? Our scope get increased, and in that case, I informed them that then delivery is going to be affected. We may need more time, and client also understand okay, because they have put the new request, and because you are delivering more than what you had promised, obviously it is going to affect. But what happens? It also comes from the perspective. Like I have also worked in the companies, big companies. And what happened? The same thing happened. Like you have delivery for today, because of some reason delivery did not get, and for many times actually client servicing called the client and say that today is not possible, we will do it on some another day or maybe tomorrow, and it happens several times. So it happens on the both sides. In the big industry, big advertising agencies, it happens the same way. Also on the freelancer side, what happens? Freelancer takes all the responsibility because he has everything on his side. Right? So he have to do all this job and also manage many things. So that's why what happens that if he do not deliver, it simply comes on his head. Okay, client will say, okay, you have not delivered. So the basic need for this is to just to make a proper plan of that. Okay, and to make a client convinced. Okay, the reason why I am not able to deliver on this date because this is the thing. Maybe scope may have been changed. Maybe some external factors. Maybe some internal. So making client updated about these things are the best way to doing. Sometimes what happens, some freelancers actually miss out this thing. Like they think the things will go past. They may miss deadline and they do not inform the client. So this is also very important to make communication very easy. You need to communicate again and again with the client to make them aware. Okay, this is the situation, and you may expect in the project delay. So it's all about conversation that you need to make the conversation very live and very active so that client also understand. Okay, that the person a freelancer is working hard on this project and he is letting me know all the updates and details. That's a simple thing I think can improve all the process and can increase the trust also among the companies about freelancers.
I get your point. Shalve, you have, close to, if I'm not mistaken, about 10 years of experience, maybe 9 years of experience, isn't it? You are an electrical engineer, worked in Tata, ran in solar, in design solar PV systems, inverters, MPPT based solar charge controllers, and you have skills in DC and AC system. There are plenty of skills that you carry. You still feel that the skills that you possess are insufficient and you need to keep upgrading them. And how often you do it? And is it voluntary or is it on demand basis? That means customer wants it at this point in time. Okay, let me go read this or study this or take this course and then come back and take up this employee freelancing option.
Yeah. So for that, I would like to quote Sir Richard Branson. I think there's a famous saying by him that, if you see an opportunity and are not sure whether you can deliver it or not, you just take it first and learn later, right? So many a times it's freelancers
putting employers at risk.
No. I mean, of course, in that case, you wouldn't be. It's like you never take a job that you definitely know you cannot do. It's something related to your field. So it's like, let's say, it's learning a new software or some advanced module of that software, right? So in my case, it's like I have been lucky enough to get exposure to different geographies and there were new technologies or new learnings that came to me, and it was I would say in my case it was involuntary, and that indirectly happened. I did not voluntarily learn something, but it's like you need your basics to be strong. You need to be good with the fundamentals of your skills. If that's present, you can definitely take up anything. But yeah, of course, I wouldn't suggest that you just take up anything that comes up.
I get it. But do you believe in periodic killing yourself, having a program of or setting a calendar? Okay, fine. At this point in time, this year, I will get myself skilled in this particular software or hardware or something. Do you believe in having that periodic learning, or?
No, so you do have to set out certain goals, so you know where your industry is heading and what new technologies are coming. So you have to update yourself with the new technologies or with the new software. I wouldn't say it's charted out very meticulously that I'll do a certain course in 3 months' time or something like that. But yeah, it is something you keep an eye on and you do it.
Okay. Moving on to Narendra, you are having a fantastic career line. I was going through your profile and I am amazed. With 12 years of experience in 3D character artistic projects, you have done a lot of gaming and film industry projects. You are skilled with 3D character design. My list is like going on and on with a lot of softwares also inbuilt in this. Culture, Maya, 3D Max. I don't even know any of them, but the list goes on like this. Uh, uh, Speaking of which, do you still believe the online presence of yours? The online presence, as in the presence in LinkedIn or presence in other freelance marketplaces, or could be in GoHype or could be anywhere, will boost your career. I'm not talking about the online presence in Facebook or Instagram. Those are for your social life, for your entertainment. About the digital presence, as in keeping a separate blog or a website. You also have a separate website for yourself. So, why is it so critical, and what is your take on this?
Yeah. So basically, see, online presence is a very important. So I'm being digital medium for a long time. So it is very important to have a digital presence on anyway. Like I've been active in LinkedIn since long time. Even I don't recall, and I've been active on the social mediums, and I have the website since long time. I have been using lot of online applications. I'm reviewing them. So the reason is that because we all can easily anticipate the what changes are coming to the market, right? So this was the anticipated that in the future, any time people will complete digital, and that exactly happened. Before the phones being launched that had a screen, no one knew that anybody is going to be go forward more than just watching the TV and going forward. But since when the internet technology has improved and the phone quality has been improved, people are more into social media. Now the thing is that the more people go in some place, you definitely want to be on the same place. It's like it's like a market, or it's like some place where a lot of people gets together, and if you want to market yourself, will definitely want to go there, right? The same fundamental comes here. So that's why having the online presence scenario is very crucial for any brand, and that exactly is happening. A lot of brands are focusing a lot on this and spending a lot of money into that. Like on the social, even people are spending a lot of money on the Facebook, on the Instagram, lot of things. So the reason is that because think about that. Let's say if I flashback into 10 years before back in 2001. So we had a phone that didn't have any screen, like you can just use it, Nokia phone, right? At that time, people had only one medium, just to watch the ad, which is ads, and see the website, and that's the only thing they could. Right nowadays, everyone has a phone. If they know their website, they don't have to go and watch the TV. If you have product, you don't have to market your product to make a big banners and post it on the walls to the streets. You just simply have to go create an ad and just post on the social, and people will see it. So that's the kind of technology, and coping up with the technology is the very smart technique, because we have to be work strategically, right? Working harder is not more important than working smarter. So it's the smart generation, it's a smart era. So we need to be smart to spread out our products, our services, and our everything that we want to talk with them, and that's why these things come. And if there is a better way of doing it, definitely we should go for it. I'm very hopeful that there may be some more technologies coming into the future, and we are going to adopt into that. So this is a good trend.
Yeah, to sum up, having an online presence, be it in Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, or whichever platform it is, choose your platform and be present there. Is your takeaway? I understand that. Moving,
this is also serious business.
Yeah. Shalve, what kinds of jobs have you done to your clients? In solar, rooftop business. This particular business itself is very new. Rooftop and power plant design and all. How many projects? What kind of projects have you done? Or can you throw some light on?
To put it in short, I am a back-end engineering team for my clients in solar industry. Currently, the state that it is in, what happens is, let's say you are a solar company or you are an individual who wants to sell solar, you have multiple contacts and you can approach them for selling solar. But solar industry is such that it's not a ready-made product or off-the-shelf product. You have to customize it, right? So you as an individual or you as a company trying to sell solar, you may not be able to afford a full-time engineer currently in-house, right? So that's where I come in. Basically, you give me an inquiry, I will work out all the technical details and give you a design. It's like completely outsourcing your engineering, like these software companies do. But I do it for solar. That's the.
What software do you use? PVSys is one of them.
Yeah, so I use many softwares. PVSys is one of them. Then there is Helioscope. Then there is Aurora, and there are many others like Solar Plus, which are country specific. But yeah, there are many. Like there's one more, Energy Toolbase, and so on.
Okay, very well. Narendra, you have been freelancing for quite some time now, and do you have any tips for the freelancers who would like to jump into this world? Because of this pandemic situation, a lot of people want to come in. So what tips do you give them to accelerate their growth, or if you have some hacks that you have had, can you share it with us?
Yeah, actually, I have many things to say, but I will just summarize it. So basically, the most important thing to just remember that freelancing is a serious business. What happens, sometimes and this is the reason for in India why a lot of companies do not consider freelancer for their projects. So what happens, a lot of people have lost job, and what happens is the moment anyone lost a job, they become freelancer. What my point is that if you want to be a freelancer, you have to think about it very seriously and start working on it on very serious note, because freelancing is a business, as I said. And the second most important thing is that it's a change of perception, right? One moment you were working in a company, you only was working on only certain things of skills, and then you are done. So you were getting your paid job. But when you come into the freelancing, it's a complete business. That means you may need to do things that you have never done before, and so you need to be open for everything. Now, this is not my job kind of attitude is never gonna work in freelancing industry. Everything is possible. You have to do everything. You may need to do the client servicing. You may need to do the marketing tactics. You need to call the clients. You need to do all the dirty works that you never thought you will be ever doing. So you will have to wear all the hats to just be a successful freelancer. So, and this is very important, that because commitment is very important. Like if you have committed about something with the client, then you need to meet it. You make sure that you meet it, and also avoid doing overcommitment. Like sometimes what happens, we want to just get a job, we want to just get a project because we need to funds, and we just make a overcommitment. Never do it, because this is going to be harm your this is going to harm your ratings. Your reliability will be suffered, because one client, if one client is not satisfied, he is going to tell with others also that okay, I'm not satisfied with this client, this freelancer. So that's why. So things actually in market moves forward. So if you do good work, it will move forward. If you do a bad work, it will move forward. So we have to just keep in mind all these things, and I think that things will go forward with that. Yeah, remember this thing, it's a business, it's not a job, and it's not a part-time thing. Freelancing is not a part-time thing. You have to take it very seriously, then you will be able to succeed on that.
Freelancing is not a part-time job. That is a good tip. See, what I suggest a lot of freelancers who want to jump in is start small. I mean, take up small activities while you are working. Get hold of how this industry works, how to interact with clients, job market. To determine all these things while you are at an employment for a period of 1 or 2 years, and start making your profile from there. And when you are ready, when you think you are ready to jump into this full time, you have already established some contacts, you already have some digital presence at this point in time, then you can take off from there. So this is something that I advise a lot of engineers who want to come in at this point in time. Anyways, moving on. Naren, Shalve, you also must be having a lot of tips. You are also a pretty accomplished freelancer. Any tip that you want to give?
Yeah, so I 100% agree with Narendra. It's not a part-time job. Many people feel that I'll do a full-time job and the 2 hours that I have in the evening, I'll start as a freelancer. That's definitely not a thing. Being a freelancer is more hectic than doing your job, to be honest. If you want to become a successful freelancer, you have to work 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day if you want to become successful and build some reputation. So be prepared for it. Of course, when I say this, I don't say freelancing is bad, because in freelancing you are your own boss, and if you put 12 hours into freelancing, you will definitely be earning more than what you earn in a conventional job. So as Narendra correctly pointed out, freelancing is not a part-time thing, and my suggestion would be getting your first job in freelancing is as difficult as anything. Getting that first job can take you months, but once you get your first job, and then getting jobs becomes easy. Once you are an established freelancer, you don't really need to go out and search for jobs come to you. So that's one thing. And yes, I 100% agree with Narendra. All the things you have to do, you have to stick to timelines. You have to basically take ownership of your own business and go about it. I mean, there have been many times, if you're freelancing for a country that is not in your time zones, you will get job requests in the night at 1 a.m. And there are two options. One is you can think, okay, I'll reply to him tomorrow, or you can just get up and reply. And within that 1 hour, you get that job, and it turns out that he's your client for the next 2 years. So you have to be prepared.
Yeah.
And you have to again start small in freelancing world. Right now, if you're an hourly freelancer, you can start at very low pricing, but as your credibility builds up, you can charge as high as anything, and you'll still get the jobs. So yeah, building, or to put it in short, I would say building your credibility is important in freelancing. Once you have the credibility, you can charge 10,000 rupees an hour or $500 an hour. Nobody really would mind that once you have that credibility established. But yeah, establishing your credibility is important.
I think my next question was about the first jobs that we do it as freelancers. You mostly covered the first job, how it is. Can you tell me the experience of getting the first job? How did you get that? What is there a story around that?
Yeah. So for me, it's an interesting story. I was doing my conventional job, and like everybody else, I was fed up of my job, right? And I read on Quora website that people do freelancing. Before that, I was not aware of freelancing. And when through Quora, I came to know about certain freelancing websites, and I registered on them. I got rejected by that freelancing website up to 8 or 10 times, right, before my profile got accepted. And then it got accepted, and I was lucky enough to get an invite instead of me applying. I got an invite. It was a client from California, and he basically asked me to do AutoCAD drafting things, and that's how the journey began for me in 2017. Right now, it has grown really to a good extent, and I in fact have a couple of people working under me, and it's a proper company, to be honest now. But yeah, that's how it started.
It's a good fairy tale.
Yeah.
Do you have any such stories? What was your first job like in freelancing?
Yeah, so actually this relates with the one question that's about the online activities. So basically what happens that I was already active in this online medium since long time. So, and because of this, I've already been in touch with the freelancers in Europe and US. So I used to see them how they work, and then by actually getting inspired from them, I created my own websites and all these things. So actually, what happened? I got my first project because of my portfolio. So someone actually saw my portfolio and then actually sent me a mail and then they said that okay, they have some requirement and they want to do something, and then that's why actually I completed my first project. It was a low paying job, but it was a good beginning because every beginning is a small and it has a potential to grow to a good extent. So that's why I took that job, and since then actually I'm thinking everything as a challenge. So basically, if you take everything as a challenge and you try to do your best on your every task, definitely it's going to be go on very well, good note. And as actually my friend said, so basically this is going to be very important. Freelance is just a beginning. Anyways, everyone wants to grow up. So eventually, after getting successful in freelancing, you would like to want to set up your own company, and that should be the main goal. So this is the just beginning of your journey. So that's all from my end.
Very nice. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Any final comment within 5-10 seconds or 15 seconds? Talve, have you got any final closing comments?
Let me check. Let me check your questions. I think I had one comment. Meanwhile, if Narendra has a comment, I don't.
Closing comment, a 10-second comment. I don't want this to be an elaborate one.
Okay, I have just one comment on that. So basically, see, in freelancing industry, no one is a competitor. Very important. We are here to collaborate with each other. So maybe I am an artist. There is another artist, so I can collaborate with them and can do a better project, a bigger projects that I cannot do it alone. So collaboration is the key. So be open to collaborate with your the artists, the people who are doing the freelancing and they are doing the same work, because that's how it go forward. Working as a team is always better than working alone. You can take big things in your hand. That's it from my end.
Thank you, Narendra. Do you have any closing comments, or shall we close with this?
No, the only comment I have is it was one of your questions that freelancers would be initially only be hired by smaller companies. Do not expect larger companies to hire you initially because they have a lot of internal protocols and data privacy and stuff. So as a freelancer, if I'm an engineer, I wouldn't expect to be hired by a Rolls-Royce or a certain big company, but your majority of jobs, 80% of your jobs would come from smaller companies, and the 80-20% rule applies to freelancing as well. Your 80% of income would come from 20% of your client and vice versa. So yeah, that's how.
That's a nice analogy of a Pareto analysis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. It was a pleasure talking to you all. I look forward to be in touch with both of you after this call and forever.
Okay.
Wish you both a happy freelancing career, wonderful festival celebrations ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
for having us.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
With this, I am signing off from this episode. If you have questions or a comment, please enter it below. In the pursuit of knowledge and skill, many engineers have been writing to us to invite those men and women who have a great story to narrate and inspiring quotes. If you think you have it in you and want to join our next episode, please drop us an email at info@gohype.com. We will get in touch with you. Thank you.